All right, we are here in Athens, Greece. Sitting next to me is Alexander Mercouris. And Alexander, we have got to talk about Blinken's visit to Africa. He is visiting DPR Congo, Rwanda, and most notably from the 7th to the 9th, he is in South Africa. They haven't kept why he's going a secret. He has said, the State Department has said straight out, they're interested in Congo and Rwanda in order to get access to their military capabilities, and they see their military capabilities as a good counterweight towards Russia's influence in Africa. They've been straight up about that, but more importantly, with South Africa, their goal is to move South Africa away from the Russia-China camp. Specifically, they would like South Africa to come out with a statement saying that they condemn Russia, they condemn Russia's actions in Ukraine, and possibly move towards sanctioning Russia. South Africa, most notably, was a country that in the UN, during the vote way back when everything started, South Africa did not condemn the actions of Russia in Ukraine. They actually voted, I think they either voted against the US's proposal, or they abstained, one of the two. But either way, they kept a neutral stance, and I would say even a more pro-Russia stance. Anyway, the State Department and Blinken, they haven't kept anything secret as to why they're there. Their goal is to move South Africa in much the same way they tried with India, to move them away from Russia and China, and to move them towards the US. Is Blinken going to be successful? What do you make of this trip?
I would be extremely surprised if he was successful. In fact, I'm confident that he will fail. Now, can I just say the other underlying story is that the US was extremely upset and annoyed by Sergei Lavrov's recent tour of Africa. I mean, he went to all these African countries. He went to Egypt, he went to Ethiopia, he went to, and he's had contacts with various other African leaders, and he was received everywhere like a rock star, exactly. The president of the African Union, who's also the president of Senegal, he recently visited Moscow. He met with Putin there. African states have tended to align with Russia against the West over Ukraine. So the Americans are very annoyed by this. They're very anxious to end this, to try to make their own counter. And I predict they're going to fail. And I don't know very much about how they'll do in Congo and Rwanda, but I very much doubt that these two countries will show any great interest in aligning with the US over Ukraine. But I think it is all but inconceivable that they will succeed in South Africa. South Africa is a member of the BRICS. It's already, if you like, made its choice that it's gravitating towards the Eurasian camp. The ruling party in South Africa is still the ANC. The ANC has very strong historic links to Russia. And I can't see what it is that the United States can offer South Africa that would persuade them to change course. I don't see what it is that the United States could threaten South Africa with that would make them want to change course. So I think that what will happen is that Blinken will go there, he'll say all the things he wants to say, he'll be received very politely, as American officials have been when they've gone to India or to the ASEAN countries, and I think they'll send him on his way. But I don't think there will be any actual realignment, certainly not by South Africa, most probably not by any of the other African states that Blinken is visiting. I think this is a waste of time, actually. I think Blinken is simply wasting his time. I think if he wanted to use it productively, he might go to these African countries and want to listen to what their concerns are and why they're not aligning with the West on this issue. But he's not doing that. He's going to try and preach to them and win them over. And that's not what they're there for. That's not, I think, what they were receptive about. So I don't think this trip is going to succeed. I think this tour is a waste of time. I think Blinken is wasting his time, and I think that this will be a failure, like pretty much every trip that Blinken has made.
Yeah, he's not the best diplomat in the world, but two comments. This is following Macron's trip to Africa, which I don't think was you could categorize that as a success. No. Actually, it was a pretty. It seemed like at certain points it was kind of a disaster. Macron in Africa, and I just have to say, is Africa going to look at this as kind of these various countries in Africa, say for example South Africa, as kind of a way to look at Blinken and say, you know, they're now coming to us, they're panicking, they're now coming to us, but you know, it's a little too late because all these decades you haven't really treated us with the respect that we were looking for. And we did a video, we talked about Turkey and how Turkey wanted respect and wanted to feel like they were included in this club. They had a seat at the table, but they were never given that seat. Do you see a lot of the same dynamics with many African nations, and including South Africa, saying, you know, you've kind of ignored us all these decades, and now here you are because of the situation in Ukraine, and you want us to side with you, when these last 5, 10, 15 years, what we've seen from the Russia-China camp, especially China from what I know, but perhaps Russia as well, we've seen a lot of money pouring into our countries. We've seen a lot of investment. We've actually seen them interested in us. I mean, do you see? And on a side note, they're seeing who's winning, and everyone wants to be associated with the winner. I mean, that you can't fault any nation from saying, you know, Russia's got this and they're winning, so why would we go to the losing side when we can go to the winning side? I mean, there is that dynamic as well, I would say.
And that dynamic about, you know, going with the winner as opposed to the loser should never be underestimated. I mean, if Russia was visibly losing, then of course there would be that dynamic would work against them. But the Russians are winning, and as you rightly say, everybody wants to be with the winner against the loser. And that is undoubtedly playing a role. But fundamentally, going back to your original, your main point, you're absolutely right. Blinken's approach, the US approach, the Western approach to Africa has been both manipulative and at times very condescending. It's, you know, they've never taken African states as states particularly seriously. They're constantly telling them, you've got to change this, you've got to do that, you've got to reform in this way. When Western aid is sent to Africa, it always comes with enormous strings attached. They're never very interested in listening to African problems. And of course the Russians and the Chinese. But in this case, definitely the Russians have taken Africa very seriously. They took Africa very seriously during the Cold War, when they supported the African nations as they fought against the European colonial empires. Something which Africans have not forgotten. They offered, and they still offer, places to Africans in Russian universities. Lots of Africans have been to Russian universities and have studied in Russia and have got degrees and have created careers based on the skills that they learnt in Russia. So there's that also not to be ignored or discounted. So there is a sentimental feeling, a feeling that, you know, Russia has stood by us in the past, we should stand by them. But there's also an immediate issue, because here we see the Western powers, the United States, and they're trying to make the issue of Ukraine the central issue in world affairs. They say what's going on in Ukraine is monstrous, it's outrageous, it's unprecedented. Nothing like this has ever happened before, except of course Africans say, well, it's happened many times. We've had wars in Iraq, and who started that? We have wars in the Congo, we have conflicts in Sudan. You've never shown the same kind of interest in these conflicts in our region, in our neighborhood, in our continent that you're showing in Ukraine. So fundamentally, that shows what you really think of us you don't really care about us very much. You're condescending and manipulative. You want us to join you in a war in Europe about Europeans. You want us to side in a war against a country that's been a historic friend to us. But when it's problems that closer to home, wars in Sudan, wars in Congo, which by the way are ongoing, wars in other places in Africa, Somalia, in the Middle East, well, it's of fitful interest to you. You don't show anything like the same attention and the same energy that you show to our problems, that you're demanding that we show to yours. So thank you, but no thanks. At the end of the day, we will stick with the country, Russia, which has been our historic friend.
Right. How much, real quick, to end the video, how much do you think Libya plays into this? What NATO did to Libya? They still remember.
Of course they remember. They remember.
And Gaddafi was a respected leader in the African Union, correct?
And widely supported, including in South Africa. I mean, Nelson Mandela had a very good, close relationship with Gaddafi, because Gaddafi was a very, very strong supporter of the ANC.
Yeah.
That's going to come back and get them.
Absolutely.
I don't think they've forgotten. I haven't forgotten Libya. I mean, it's, they haven't forgotten that.
Of course they haven't forgotten. And the gruesome way in which Gaddafi was killed, and the things that were said during that war, which turned out to be untrue, about the kind of things that Gaddafi was supposed to have done. It turned out that many of them turned out to be untrue. And Amnesty says it. The Human Rights Watch say that all the stories that were spread were completely untrue. And of course they were going to rescue Libya, except of course that Libya has been destroyed. It is still in a state of war. And who's trying to solve the problem in Libya? It's the Russians, actually, and the Turks. The joint, there was a meeting between Erdogan and Putin, and they've come up with a joint statement about Russia and Turkey seeking a joint settlement of the Libyan conflict. So the Russians are trying to solve problems in Africa, which the West has created.
Yeah. Hillary Clinton. We came, we saw, and the cackle.
Yeah. Going to be a cackle. Believe that. Yes.
All right, we will leave it there, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com, Duran Shop. Use the code GOODDAY, 10% off, and look for us on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, and Telegram. Take care.